Welcome to LUTV News InFocus, where we feature interesting topics on campus, in the community, and in the world of culture. I'm Jade Moreau. You always hear of amateur boxer or musician, but you never hear of amateur meteorologist. LUTV News alumnus Johnny Lively's fear of weather shifted into a hobby that he chases with a passion. Lively visited the studio recently to talk all things weather. So first things first, how did you get started in this hobby?
So I got started, I guess, liking weather and having a passion for weather was back in 2001. That was a fairly active year for me in Southeast Texas, it seemed like. In 2001, I had Tropical Storm Allison. It affected the Houston area, and this drifted into Southeast Texas and eventually got into Louisiana as well. But it was one of the first systems that I saw historical flooding, and that really reached out to me. But fast forward a couple weeks later, actually a couple months later, we had a trough and cold front that dipped down in Southeast Texas, and it gave a pretty organized squall line that passed through our area, the ranch that I live on, and we saw a quick spin-up tornado that really totaled our house. And when I was in first grade, that's a pretty significant weather event, and that really scared me, and I was frightened to death. So I wanted to, instead of being scared and always running in fear from weather, I wanted to somewhat better understand them. And instead of being chased by weather, I wanted to somewhat chase weather and better understand it. So that got me into my, I guess you could say, passion for it. But along the way, 2005, you had Rita. In 2008, you had Ike. In 2017, you had Harvey. And in 2019, you had Imelda. So, you know, being in this area, it's had a lot of storms for me to study and be a part of and really learn from.
You seem to be very knowledgeable. Are you self-taught?
I wouldn't say really self-taught. I would not say that, because Patrick Vaughn in this area has been a meteorologist that I was in 8th grade. Again, like I said, I was scared to death of weather, and so he was actually forecasting that we were going to have a pretty nasty severe weather event back in 2009. I believe it was March of 2009, and he was forecasting that we were going to have some high Cape values and we were going to see some shear, and we had a chance of having some quick spin-up tornadoes. And so I was really worried about that, and so I messaged him and emailed him if I could learn some more about weather. And about 30-45 minutes later, he gave me a call, and my mom's like, Patrick Vaughn's on the phone and he wants to talk to you. So that night he told me that he wanted to meet me in person, and I went in the office at Channel 12, and he started breaking down the weather and showing me how you're actually supposed to forecast it. It's not just looking at models and finding stuff that's hyping and, you know, colorful colors. He was all about the pure science and showing why this is happening. He really blew my mind and taught me a lot about weather. And over the years, you know, 10, 15 years later, I'm really starting to understand what it is that he taught me. But I guess you can say I'm not self-taught, but again, I follow the forecasters that we have, use the National Weather Service, the National Hurricane Center, and the SPC. They're going to give you what's forecasted, and so that's who I've really learned from.
And while you were attending school here at Lamar, you were actually a weather anchor for LUTV. Tell me about your time there, what you enjoyed most.
So LUTV, if you want to get some, you know, experience in broadcasting and really getting into that broadcasting and communication field, it's the best, I guess, organization and entity you could do to be a part of, because you get hands-on experience of broadcasting, and it's the greatest experience that you could do. So being able to be a part of LUTV and being the weather anchor, it was such a great learning experience. But for me, I don't think LUTV really designed it, but you shoot the shows on Friday and they don't air until Monday. So you're having to give a forecast that's 4 to 5, 7 days ahead. And so LUTV kind of taught me what medium to long range models were. And so it's really kind of taught me how to better read long range models and really kind of decipher, you know, how the models are working out and what the forecast could be in the next couple of days and maybe the next couple of weeks.
And you actually have a very reputable social media presence. How does that make you feel, knowing that so many people are actually, you know, looking at you for weather advice?
I don't really know how to feel about it. You know, it is a great honor to have, but you know, again, people need to be following the official, you know, forecasters, the National Hurricane Center, the National Weather Service, because that's where I get all my information. I post exactly what the National Weather Service is saying. If it's hurricane season, I'm posting exactly what the National Hurricane Center is posting and saying. You know, I'm not really putting just my own forecast. I'm just trying to communicate, because I went to school for communications. I love communicating what it is that these government entities that us taxpayers pay for. I love really breaking down what the National Weather Service and National Hurricane Center is telling us, and I love communicating to the public and letting them know, you know, they don't keep up with these big weather terms. They don't really understand what all of this is, and they don't understand how this is going to unfold. And so I love trying to find a way to communicate it that the average person can understand what is about to unfold.
Is there anything that really stands out to you about weather that you love so much, and that's the reason that you're really into this hobby?
The reason I would say that I'm so much into weather is that conditions can change so rapidly, and if you're not paying attention to it, it can sneak up and get you. And so that's one thing that I guess that it's kept me really into it. Every night before I go to bed, I check the weather. I don't know why, but I always feel that a tornado is going to hit me when I go to bed. And so I'm always checking the weather, and it might be snowing, but I'm still worried that there could be a tornado. It's just always, it keeps me on my toes, and it makes me want to continue to learn. It's always changing and evolving every single second, every single day.
Do you have any plans to pursue this professionally?
Yes, hopefully one day. There are a couple schools that I could go into. Mississippi State has a very good online program we've really looked into, and Texas A&M does as well, but I really don't know just to yet. Like, I really don't know what the future will hold for me just yet. I do love weather. It's a good little hobby. It is a passion that I do enjoy, but hopefully I find my way into that weather journey and path, I guess you could say.
I would like to thank Johnny for the interview and for assisting me during my time at LUTV Weather. Thank you for watching LUTV News in Focus. For more LUTV News content, follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook.